Welcome to 52 Lockup. I am your Apple Teeny Cadma, a bit in Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions, true crime. A new episode in every Cadmaniac Monday for 52 Mondays, 52 crimes. I hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to like, leave some feedback, subscribe, you know the usual. However, viewer discretion is always advised. So I will be discussing the death of very young children in this episode. So viewer discretion is highly advised. Let's get started. Today's episode, we are going out to Uvalde, Texas. That's right, you said it, Texas. All right. So, Salvador Rolando Ramos was actually born on May 16, 2004 to his mother, Adriana Martinez, in North Dakota. She struggled taking care of him, growing up, especially because the father was not present in his life. He was completely just deadbeat, dropped out, left the kid. Adriana would make the decision of moving from North Dakota, right, over to Texas, which is primarily where a lot of her family was, due to a lot of the struggling that she was encountering. And because she was struggling so much with raising him, when she did arrive in Uvalde, Texas, she did try to stay with him, but it was becoming so complex and so tense that she eventually entrusted him with her parents, Rolando Reyes and Celia Martinez. So Salvador spent the rest of his childhood, teenage years with his maternal grandparents on Diaz Street in Uvalde, Texas. There was a neighbor that commented that the mother was actually going through a lot, and that's why she was not within the same household as the son, which is interesting to say the least, because it seemed like he was behaved-ish with the grandparents. But anyway, Salvador is described as antisocial, extremely quiet. According to someone else, he said he was a big fan of playing Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, according to a neighbor whose son went to the same school as him. There was one neighbor who said that Salvador was actually a victim of bullying, particularly in junior high school. Salvador's middle school friend, Stefan Garcia, actually said that Salvador was bullied a lot over whether it was social media, over gaming, over everything. He was the nicest kid, the most shyest kid. He just needed to break out of his shell. It is said that the bullying was mostly due to his lisp as well as stuttering issue that he had. His cousin Mia said that Ramos would he would just brush off the bullying from middle school, but he would still go to his grandmother and complain that he didn't want to go back to school. So, however, regardless of what was stated about his junior high school experience, there is a student who attended the same high school as him who has a completely opposite statements to say about it. And you may have seen him on news outlets, maybe even seen it on glimpses of TikTok. And the student goes on to say that Salvador enjoyed harming animals. It was said that he was the one trying to bully others, but because he would fail at it, it would build up this intense frustration within him. And another high school student, Nadia Reyes, told the Post that he would post videos on his Instagram where he was fighting with his mom, like one in particular on his Instagram story where even the cops were there and he was calling his mom a bitch and she wanted to kick him out. Unfortunately, because it's an Instagram story, it's only temporary. But she was talking about this, and this was apparently posted about 2 months ago. She also said that he would often be screaming and talking to his mom very aggressively. It was also stated that Salvador would just get into fistfights at school a lot. He had a friend named Santos Valdez up until this extreme happened. Let me just explain. So Santos had a friend named Ramon, and Ramon came to the park one day. He had cuts, all over his face. And originally Ramon said, "Oh, it was a cat," but eventually he admitted that it was actually Salvador had taken an interest in his face with a knife, rather, for fun. Salvador held a variety of different jobs, like working at Wendy's or Burger King, while his grandfather, who worked in HVAC, installing air conditioning units and doing other maintenance tasks. Now, his grandfather, Rolando, was recognizing this teen is going down a very troubled path. So he was trying to teach him how to steer away from that. And it's mostly because Salvador was not going to graduate high school, and his grandfather Rolando has a previous record, and that record even permits him from even being around guns. In fact, he says if he had known that his grandson had guns, he actually would have reported him. And So again, Rolando sees that this kid is on this wrong path, and he's like, listen, learn from my mistakes. Learn how to do this. Maybe we can install, whatever it was. He wanted to teach him to change his ways to go down a healthier path. And regardless of how aware his family was and how troubled Salvador was, they were not aware of his online activity, which may have opened up the eyes a little bit more. So one of his favorite online sites was actually utilizing this Yubo app. Yubo. It's an app that mixes live streaming and social networking together. It's kind of become known as the Tinder for teens, for the parents who don't know. The Yubo app has been downloaded more than 18 million times in the U.S., including more than 200,000 times last month, according to the estimates from the analytics firm Sensor Tower. On Yubo, people can gather in real time, real life chat rooms, right? Panels to talk to each other. They can type messages, share videos. I guess in a sense, it's a virtual real life hangout. Kind of like what we were all doing just with avatars, when the internet first came out. So those who interacted with him stated that he would strike up small conversations with them and follow them onto other online platforms, including Instagram, where he could send people direct messages whenever he wanted. However, over time, the teens would witness what they consider to be very concerning behavior, where he would post up pictures of like dead cats, jokes about sexual assault. Even during a live video in a Yubo chat, the room listeners were recorded him saying that everyone in this world deserves to get raped, and that's what Salvador had said. Salvador would frequently make aggressive, misogynistic, and sexual comments towards teenage girls on this app, and even sent a death threat to another male teen. The 16-year-old from Austin stated that he witnessed Salvador harassing girls and threatening them with sexual assault, like rape and kidnapping. The teen said it was not just a single occurrence, it was frequent. Now, most people might be like, that's problematic behavior. It is, but unfortunately for within the misogynistic world of society, that can be very common for women just to deal with. So now Salvador's account is being reported for bullying, but his account remained active. This seems to be like a common complaint, when it comes to online platforms, including TikTok, which I remember when I was on Musical.ly, I didn't really see that happening. I saw that there was a tighter grip on things in regards to that. As a side note, later on, Yubo spokeswoman Amy Williams would not say whether the company received reports of his abuse, related to Salvador's account, and only said, as there is an ongoing and active investigation, and because this information concerns a specific individual's data, we are not legally able to share these details publicly at this time, in an email. Salvador would also talk online about shooting up schools, but apparently either no one believed him or because the account was never silenced, right? So, between their online activity recently, Salvador and the Ramos family actually lost several family members back to back, right? So within the last few months, we're talking about Salvador's great uncle, great grandmother, and although he had a job, he didn't have any friends on top of it, right? Because he couldn't socialize properly with his fellow employees or people online. He's in fact remembered at his job as not having any friends at all or not being able to keep them for very long. So a week before Salvador would turn 18 years old, he hinted on Yubo to at least 3 girls online, I'll tell you before 11, it's our little secret. But when the girls asked for more information, he never answered. So now we come around, Salvador just turns 18 years old. And he's celebrating his birthday with his grandmother at Applebee's, right? Like most of us poor folks, right? He purchased himself legally 2 AR-15s to celebrate on May 17th, 2022, legally. Along with hundreds of ammo. Salvador got into another argument with his mother that day as well, and he was still pissed off about it. This is the same day that a teen asked Salvador online, hey, are you going to shoot up a school or something? And Salvador replied, no, stop asking dumb questions. You'll see. That was asked because Salvador had posted up some interesting photos and stuff like that. And he said 10 more days. So, May 27, 2022, Salvador went to post up, "I'm going to shoot my grandmother, and I'm going to shoot an elementary school," in messages that he has sent in on Facebook. He responded to a teenage girl who didn't actually know him in real life to answer the question to "It's our little secret" by sending her pictures of 2 AR-15s, and he never wrote back afterwards. He also wrote to a stranger on Instagram, "I'm a air out." His grandmother, Celia, realized what her grandson had in the house and what was happening. And then he was about to commit a mass shooting that morning. They ended up getting into an argument. She's trying to stop him, and he's like, "No, I'm going to do what I'm going to do." They end up fighting, and he shoots, because she tried to stop him, he shoots his 66-year-old grandmother in the head. She actually would end up surviving. So Salvador, after that, steals the family car and heads out to Robb Elementary dressed in full body armor. His grandmother was severely injured, but still, like I said, she managed to still call the police to try to give a warning. Salvador intentionally crashed at 11:28 a.m. Through the barrier that was around the school. He walks from his truck toward the school, firing his weapon at any nearby witnesses. A 911 call is made about a man with a gun, and then he approaches the school and starts shooting at the building multiple times. He walked through apparently an unlocked door at 11:40 a.m. that is normally locked. So the following are a variety of different statements from the police. So I'll be just quoting newspapers at this point because I can't even do a timeline properly. Because some of these comments have been recanted. It's just been all over the place, right? So here we go. Officials, including Governor Abbott, previously said a school resource officer outside the school engaged with the shooter before he entered an apparently unlocked door. That is correct. Escalon clarified at 11:40 a.m. the gunman entered the school unobstructed and did not exchange fire with police before entering the building. Once local police agencies arrived at the school, Salvador from inside would fire at them. Escalon said. These officers then retreated and awaited further assistance from units outside of Uvalde. Escalon said it took for an hour for an armed tactical team to go inside and confront the shooter. By then, that time, Salvador had shot dozens of students, killing 19 fourth graders and 2 adults, injuring 17 other individuals. Articles and news outlets reported that there were children calling from within the room, calling 911. Dispatchers telling them it's an active shooter scene, get in there. And the officers were waiting at least 40 minutes to an hour outside before even entering the school. There are reports that parents were stopped from entering the school because small town, they got the news. They're like, my kid's in there. They're booking it in. There's reports of a parent being tased and even arrested to prevent them from going in. It was also said that the police stated that they did not know it was an active shooter situation, even though there were 911 calls happening at the same time, and dispatch was telling them that there was an active shooter situation and shots could be heard from outside. Parents who heard about the shooting, like I said, had rushed to school. They were screaming at police officers to go in, or if they weren't going to go in, like, fuck it, I'll do it. That's my kid. I'm ready to die for my kid. In fact, I'm going to quote another article. Moreover, a block of time between 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. local time has yet to be fully accounted for. Onlookers allege that parents unsuccessfully urged law enforcement to enter the building during this time and confront the shooter. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has offered praise to law enforcement for their quick response that saved lives. But new details shed light on what police were doing as the gunman entered the school, and the fact that it took at least an hour for a tactical unit to make entry into the building. Other news outlets stated officers called for more resources and personnel, evacuated students and teachers in other parts of the school, and at some point entered negotiations with the suspect, Escalon said. After about an hour, a U.S. Border Patrol tactical team came to the classroom, forced entry, and fatally shot the suspect. They contained the shooter to one classroom. So, next outlet, U.S. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz said about 80 to 100 agents responded to the shooting. They didn't hesitate. They came up with a plan. They entered the classroom and they took care of the situation as quickly as possible. It seems that when they originally arrived, the police were not letting the Border Patrol in. That was another report in the news outlet. Angel Garza. He's actually a first responder. He's also the father of 10-year-old Amiri Jo Garza. Arrives at the school Tuesday to give medical aid to a girl covered head to toe in blood. The girl said to him she had seen her best friends killed, and the best friend's name was his daughter, Amiri. Angel Garza says, "How are you going to look at this girl and shoot her?" He told CNN. He said, "My baby. How do you shoot my baby?" Amiri had just gotten a cell phone actually 2 weeks ago for her 10th birthday. He said, and he learned from 2 other students that she had actually tried to call 911 during the shooting to save her classmates. I quote him where he says, "She just died trying to save her classmates. She just wanted to save everyone." He's a first responder. Obviously, he's EMS, probably underneath EMT or paramedic. One father said he asked a law enforcement officer for his gear. He was like, "Listen, I told one of the officers myself, if they didn't want to go in there, let me borrow his gun and vest and I'll go in there and handle it myself." He said they told him no. The father who spoke with it, he actually told CNN about this, but it turned out Jason Carroll, his son, would actually end up surviving. After the shooting, the National Rifle Association held their annual meeting in Houston. The same week of the shooting that Friday. A lot of people started dropping out of the annual meeting, like several country music stars. Was in no doubt after most of the artists had, backed out. Like Don McLean, Larry Gatlin, and Larry Stewart. They withdrew. Followed by Lee Greenwood and T. Graham Brown and Senator John Cornyn of Texas, Governor Abbott. Except for some big names like former President Donald J. Trump, Senator Ted Cruz, Kristi Noem of South Dakota, and Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina. It will also feature 2 top NRA officials, Jason, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Ouimet, I don't know, or We Met, might be we, because it looks like we, and the executive director of the NRA, Institute for Legislative Action, Wayne LaPierre, the NRA vice president. So when Border Patrol decided to stop listening to the local police officers and just stormed in, Salvador would be shot dead by them. Gun control restrictions requested across the country, and gun rights zealots are saying that they are heartbroken about the shooting, but, and I quote Glenn Thrush from the New York Times, that the gun zealots rejected any suggestion that gun control measures were needed to stop mass shootings. They blamed the atrocities on factors that had nothing to do with firearms, the breakdown of the American family, untreated mental illness, bullying on social media, violent video games, and the inexplicable existence of evil. Above all, they sought to divert pressure to support popular overhauls like expanded background checks by seizing on the issue of school safety. Amid reports that the gunman in Uvalde gained easy access to Robb Elementary School through an unguarded door. As another idea that was thrown out there as a response from zealots was we should give teachers guns. I presume that teachers should be handling a gun when they're not trusted to pick up the curriculum for the students, you know, or books that are being banned in states like Virginia or Texas or whatever. But I guess I can see it. Give them the gun, but don't trust them with the curriculum for indoctrinating your child. I'm seeing it. It sounds like a safe plan, you know, have Annie Oakley teaching lessons in between, you know, like, okay, shooter, this is what I'm going to do. And then, by the way, who was our first president? Yeah, so I'm just curious, how do they plan on ever executing that, considering the fact that teachers generally don't get paid enough as it is? So, like, when do you fit that in there? I'm just, #asking for a friend. I will be listing the names, because I don't want to mispronounce the names of the children accidentally. I may try to pronounce them, but I'm going to just have the names listed. And then I'm going to be playing the video from AP News, because they put together a beautiful video for the victims and photos.
Community in mourning. 3 days after 21 innocent lives were taken, we're learning more about the loved ones this small town is grieving.
Don't forget them, please. Do something about it, I beg you.
Miranda Mathis was 11 years old. A friend of her mother's told the Washington Post Miranda was a fun, spunky, bright little girl. 10-year-old Rogelio Torres, his aunt telling CNN affiliate KSAT he was a, quote, very intelligent, hardworking, and helpful person. He'll be missed and never forgotten. Maite Rodriguez, also 10 years old. Her mother Anna says Maite dreamed of becoming a marine biologist and wanted to attend college at Texas A&M. In a touching Facebook tribute, Anna calls her daughter, quote, sweet, charismatic, loving, caring, loyal, free, ambitious, funny, silly, goal-driven, and her best friend. Other victims' names have also been confirmed. Layla Salazar, 11 years old. McKenna Lee Elrod, Alethea Ramirez, and Jace Carmelo Luevanos, all just 10 years old. And in a tragic twist, the husband of Irma Garcia, one of the murdered teachers, has also died. According to the Archdiocese of San Antonio, Joe Garcia suffered a heart attack after news of his wife's death and passed away on Thursday. The couple had been married more than 24 years and were high school sweethearts.
They came to Mass every Sunday.
Father Eduardo Morales of Sacred Heart Church in Uvalde knew the family well.
I've told the community that in my own family, when we've had a death, that it's the church and prayer that has gotten us through all this. Not that it takes the pain away.
The Garcias among a list of names, of lives cut too short. Eva Mireles, Amiri Garza, Uzziah Garcia, Javier Lopez, Jose Flores Jr., Lexi Rubio, Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez, Jacqueline Casares, Tess Mata, Nevea Bravo, Ellie Garcia, Jayla Silguero, Elijah Torres, names that will forever be etched in the memories of those touched and affected by this horrible tragedy.
Jose Flores, show him to the state, the nation, show him to the world. When he died, I died.
Thank you for that video that I wish hadn't really needed to be made. There were warning signs, but it seems like a lot of his focus was gearing his hatred towards women. It is a common theme amongst mass shooters and their easy gun access. America has massacres tattooed in its history, right? You know, before the guns, right? But once the guns became more easily available, it just seems like the kind of guns the forefathers were talking about are not the ones that we have today. So there were signs. And I think people were discussing rather the bullying, because they wanted to find, like, this is what it boils down to. But the truth is, let's get down to it. Yeah, kids can be jerks. We know that. However, bully kids who are, like, really dead set on harming another child, that means that there is a problem in the home. And it seems like that's a step that's often, like, missed at times where it could have been, like, something major. Unfortunately, all the warning signs of all the stuff he was posting online were major red flags, but only the kids seem to have known about this. And I don't know if they didn't take it seriously enough or think that an adult would believe them. Or maybe they did talk to an adult and an adult didn't give them what they needed and say, oh, hey, this is wrong, we need to figure this out. Because again, those are all cries that something is wrong. It is a cry for help. His mom, not being able to get along with him, is also very possible that psychologically he may have held resentment towards his mom for why his father was not around. And he may have just been acting out, because it seems like he was a little bit more well-behaved when he was with her parents, and it's possible it's because he had both parental figures there. It didn't stop his hatred for his mom, but you get what I'm saying. It's sad when you see this, because you always think, how can we prevent this? How can we prevent this? And there's so much more that can be done, so much more. And I came across a video where the younger generation was talking about the fact that someone's kid had told them the school shooters, who are mostly students, are growing up with the school shooter active drills, which changes the ball game, right? Because they know what the protocols are. They're gonna know what to expect. They're gonna know if you give the teacher a gun, they're going to know this. I also think it's definitely a lot more riskier to actually place guns into the classrooms as well. It is a very scary scenario in regards for like what a lot of teenagers are scared of. And I can actually speak on behalf of it because I'm from the generation of Columbine. Now, when Columbine first happened, we were all just baffled. And I remember that the students at my high school, we all processed it very well. And we understood the seriousness of the reality of the situation. A lot of us were very intensely reading the news and discussing it with each other. Now, these were people who may not have been friends of mine, but nonetheless, they were having these discussions. Now, this doesn't happen with every teenager, because I spoke with a friend where he said that they hadn't even discussed it, hadn't even thought about it. He went to a different school in New York. I didn't attend a public school, so it was interesting kind of like listening to what his experiences were versus what mine was. And we had scares where somebody would say like, oh, I think so-and-so's going to bring a gun. I heard there's going to be a shooting at the school. And it is the eeriest thing to walk through school and see that 80% of your classmates are just gone because they think someone is going to shoot the school up. And it's insane because when you're there, the thought can't help but to enter your mind as a teenager. What if that school shooter is coming in today and it's going to be so easy to pick out the targets because there's only but a handful of us in this school? I remember how that became a very intense thing, looking out for like what were the signs. This was like a current events kind of like discussion, and it wasn't just restricted to history. This was just conversation in general. And I thought it was interesting watching in real life and then in hindsight and then wondering what the effects of it would be, how it would affect the future. We didn't have active, shooter drills because this is when it was kind of really starting to become, I guess, popular-ish, especially given the circumstances of the kind of weapons that they were using. And I remember the teachers talking to the students. I remember the counselors. I remember them adding in metal detectors, which wasn't in the private school at all. So, like, we didn't have that before, but we had it now. And one of the things that they even told us, just even as a precaution, like, well, listen, the school is automatically locked down and this and this and this. But the first thing we thought about, in response, as we're listening to this, we looked over at each other and we're like, but the doors are made of glass. You can shoot that. That doesn't mean that the shooter can't get in. And it's interesting for me, growing up right before they start doing active shooter drills, and then experiencing what that was like and having an idea of what the current generation is having to deal with. And it was rather interesting just like going through that experience. We then were trying to look for warning signs, or if someone was having a bad life at home, even if we didn't like each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had my bullies in school as well, and I was the outcast, but I've never had the urge. But most mass shooters seem to be just mostly men. these mass shootings are usually predominantly done, statistic-wise, they show that has been white male. Now, are there shooting violence across the country for other reasons? Yes. But mass shootings are extremely different, because it is you going to church, it is you going to a grocery store, it is you going to school, it is you minding your goddamn business, and then someone decides to make it a fucking problem. And I know there are some gun advocates that are like, oh, well, that's just part of life. That's just what happens. Like, people die. Yes, it's true. People do die. But these are just not normal circumstances. Sorry, allergic to that bullshit of an answer. But people are living longer, right? But we're anticipating to live long and maybe die of disease, or because we have bad habits and don't know how to put a cigarette down or something of that sort. We're not looking to die because we went to go buy groceries. We're not looking to hear the news that grandma got shot because she was at the local store, or because there was a mass shooting because of how you dislike this particular race of people, or because you don't like the way that they pray, whether you're at a Jewish synagogue or you're at by where Muslims, it's not called a synagogue, I just lost my word, but whether you're attacking someone for being Jewish or for being Muslim, it's uncanny. Or just for riding the New York City subway, like, there's just too much. And the truth is, other countries, Canada, I think we can mold a couple of rules and regulations that mimic Canada very well, or any of the other countries, right? Where if you're going to get a gun, explain why do you need it? Like, why does an 18-year-old have the easy access to buy a gun, but he still can't buy booze? I'm not here to say I'm gonna fight this, but I make it. Walk me through your thought process. Make it make sense. They even did a test on. It was a video that I saw, and it was so uncanny. The kid's 14 years old, could not buy lottery ticket, could not buy cigarettes, could not buy alcohol, but you know what he could purchase was a gun. And that part doesn't make any sense, right? Because I just feel like in general that should just be for adult play. You know what I mean? There should be things that kick in. I mean, insurances, if you're going to have that, because if you have a car, right, you got teenagers, they're expecting the teenagers drive the car, your insurance goes up. I think that should be applied as well. If you were to own a gun and you have a child, there should be insurances. And if you have a child and that child becomes a teenager, insurances go up in the likelihood that they fucking do something. As well as for other things. I mean, I'll let the insurance companies figure that part out in greater detail. But the point is, we need some kind of regulation. I am all for. I have the right to own a gun. I am all for it. However, if someone is psychologically impaired, or if someone is purchasing 600 rounds of ammo because he feels like bothering people at a Las Vegas concert, seems a bit over the top. I haven't heard of a location where there's 1,000 deers and you need an AR-15 to get as many of them as you can. No one hunts like that. You know what I mean? That's not how hunting works. And it's uncanny, how quick, well, I want the right to have my gun, and you're taking it from me. We're not taking it from you, even though you are putting a gun to a woman's head in regards to her reproductive rights. There's just so much happening, and I'm there are priorities, my good sir, my priorities. And I just firmly believe that there should be at least, I don't know, a 3-week, 4-week course on gun safety, the different kinds of guns, things you're allowed to purchase, the laws about things, and part of the process. I have to go through so much just to get a driver's license. People have to do less to either. You can become either a medical professional, a police officer, a lawyer. There's so much to do that, right? But anyone can just get a gun like that, just cross state lines and go pick up whatever you need? No. It don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And regulations on it is not going to stop the NRA from making money. We want to know who's buying it. Is little Timmy going in? Or is it some guy who's been radicalized online? Another one who decides he wants to do this. And the thing about it is that it's a scary scenario to know that people are no, they're so stuck on what they want to have. This is an American right. It is your American right. However, it is also your American responsibility to protect other Americans, not just your family. Because at the end of the day, you may say, not in my backyard, but everything is. Everything is in your backyard. Sorry. the mass shootings just like frustrate me because I feel like we've crossed it too many times. Like, I guess we'll figure it out between Columbine to all of what's going on now. Yeah. So, I did compile a list. I tried to sort through it as much as I could, but really, there's been so many shootings, it's hard to, like, one person to do this, and I'm doing this show on my own, so it's not like I have someone who could, like, I fixed the data for you, you know what I mean? So I tried to, organize it as best as I could. So this list does not include, like, the KKK massacres that they would have done, shooting people, whatever it was, same thing that happens to the Native Americans, etc. I put that stuff out, because that's a different, separate, topic. I took out criminals taking out each other as rivals or shootouts that they had with the police officers. Not that those don't kind of count in a sense, but I just don't consider them to be mass shootings because there's an expectation because of the situation. One gang is trying to kill out the other gang, and then you have a criminal who's trying to kill out all the officers. And there were some cases I came across where, like, a criminal was killing out officers because they had, like, just escaped. So those are situations where I can almost understand how we got here, right? You can put two and two together, right? You can go, okay, this is a rival gang. They want that territory. A plus B equals C. With mass shootings, you're like, they wanted to shoot someone. This person was buying groceries. Wait a minute. How do we get from here to here? So I also excluded criminals that are trying to avoid being arrested. I also took out robberies gone wrong. Because I did come across some cases where people apparently decided to take a gun and just go door to door in the neighborhood. Like, I'm just going to kill everyone in the house and just go to the next house. So, because of how dense this list is, this list will actually begin starting in 1965. Oh, would you look at that? There were additional shootings. One out in Tennessee. I was trying to finish this episode, but apparently people still have more shootings to do. This one out in Tennessee was near a nightclub. 3 people dead, 14 others injured. They think it's an isolated incident. They're not really sure. Then we have... Oh, okay. South Street in Philadelphia, which is known for their drag nightlife, character, and vibrancy. Someone just opened up gunfire there, and 3 people were killed there, and 11 people injured there. No arrests have been made because that just happened. I don't think this is ever gonna happen, really. Like, if I'm covering something for 52 lockup, and then as I'm covering it, more stuff on the topic I'm covering is occurring. It's crazy. And let's see. Oh, we have a mass shooting at a graduation party. That's a new one. In South Carolina, a 32-year-old woman was killed while 7 others were injured. Police are trying to figure out if it's gang related. This was a school graduation party. And you've got all these innocent children that were there that were hit by gunfire, according to Sheriff Tim Baxley. Is that it? Can I end my episode before another shooting occurs, or where am I? So my advice is, I think everyone should go on Amazon, get one of those, shooter kits in the sense of, how to prepare for, wounds. Take some CPR classes, and I guess we'll just figure it out from there. 20, yeah. I'm going to stop this episode before, I have to add another one to this. That's all. Thank you guys for tuning in. Whoop, whoop!